Good morning, and thanks for joining us here on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. Time magazine recently released their 2025 list of the 100 most influential people in the world. On that list, Connecticut attorney Josh Koskoff. He's joining us now to talk more about his career and receiving this recognition. Josh, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Emma. I appreciate it.
So starting off really quickly, can you just touch on your background, how long you've been a lawyer? What made you want to get into this profession?
Well, I come from a long line of trial lawyers. My grandfather was a trial lawyer. My dad was a trial lawyer. And so there was a little bit of growing up in the soil of the legal profession in a certain type of law. And I found it to be very interesting. I never thought I could do it the way as well or at all, but certainly as well as they did. And so it took me a while to gain any confidence to even go to law school. And I tried it and I kind of liked it. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily confer that you're capable. You're just a step along the way.
Right. So you were just named, as I mentioned, to the TIME100 2025 list of most influential people. What was your reaction when you found out about this?
I mean, honestly, I was thoroughly confused. You know, as a lawyer, these kinds of things just aren't on your radar, Emma. You don't think about lists or awards or recognition like that because you're really just keeping your head down and representing individuals that really need you. So it's really not part of our profession and so I was confused, and then I thought it had to be a mistake, and I kept waiting for Time to send me an email saying, you know, we regret to inform you that it was a mistake. So that's how I felt. And then the list came out, and I realized, I guess it wasn't. Either it was a mistake and they didn't catch it, or I was, in fact, on the list.
And you've worked on some pretty big cases. You know, before we get into two specifics that I want to mention, are there any that stand out to you as highlights so far of your career? Any ones that have been really memorable for you?
I mean, the thing is, there's a little piece of me, I think, Emma, in the way I practice, I get very involved with my clients and the cases. So there's kind of a little piece of me in every case that is special, and every case has a special part in my heart, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, people, if they know me at all, would typically know me for being involved in the Sandy Hook cases.
Yep.
Cases involving, you know, tremendous challenges. But they're all meaningful to me. It's like they're all my children, and I don't want to insult one over the other.
Sure. And you mentioned the Sandy Hook case. That was mentioned specifically by Senator Chris Murphy, who wrote your TIME100 bio. He talked about your work with the families of Sandy Hook victims, holding gun manufacturers accountable. Can you tell me a little bit more about that case specifically?
I mean, that's a case that came to me. I certainly wanted to help the Sandy Hook families in the aftermath of the shooting, like anybody else in Connecticut or across the world, for that matter.
Yeah.
The difference is, if you're a lawyer, you can actually help do something, not as much as you'd like, and I was just getting a ride to the airport, and it so happens that the driver's friend lost a daughter at Sandy Hook, and put that person in touch with me, and then I went to work. I met families. You know, I listened. The first thing you have to do is listen, and to really absorb their pain, and then you have to respond and go to work and make sure that you don't jump to any conclusions. So it was it took 10 years, Emma, to build and resolve that case. It was a long, but certainly a righteous journey.
I know it's been mentioned that the way you went about that case has been sort of used as a model for other cases against other parts of the gun industry. You were a part of filings on behalf of the Uvalde, Texas families as well. Can you tell me a little bit about, you know, what's kind of spurred off since being a part of the Sandy Hook case and lasting for 10 years, how it has kind of trickled into other cases now, it sounds like?
Sure. And by the way, when I'm speaking about me being involved in these cases, you ask me questions. I want to be clear that, you know, I have the greatest colleagues in the universe here and a support team that I would never trade for anything. So it's all a team effort. But yes, I think that the Sandy Hook case, what it established is that nothing is impossible, and that the perception of something being unwinnable, it will just stifle all development in the law. And so I think, that has led us to represent individuals in Uvalde. We have 19 of the 21 lawsuit or clients there lost children. So we're really employing different uses of the legal system to try to get access for these families to the court to gain accountability and justice for these really terribly aggrieved families.
And Senator Murphy also wrote in that bio for you for TIME100, quote, "No amount of money will bring back loved ones, but Josh gives the families he represents a real chance to seek justice," unquote. How do you feel about that sentiment?
I mean, it's a very gracious sentiment by Senator Murphy, and I don't think I could have written it any more elegantly. And it's a humbling thing, but I think if I were thinking about the way I would want to leave my own legacy, as my grandfather did and my dad did, it would be something along those lines. One of service to the individuals wronged, especially at the wrong end of a powerful corporation and more, topically the government.
And so you were also a part of the suit against Yale University for mass painkiller diversion, specifically relating to women seeking fertility treatment. I know that just wrapped up, I believe, last year. Can you share some more about reaching that settlement and what that case was about?
Sure. I don't know, some of your listeners may know that there was a period of time for at least 6 months, but we think more likely years, where a nurse at Yale was taking fentanyl out of vials meant to be used for painkillers for women undergoing fertility treatment, and she was replacing it with saline. Saline has no effects of treating or preventing pain. Fentanyl is a powerful painkiller. It's 50 times more powerful than morphine. So you can imagine having an egg extraction without the necessary pain medication on board. Yeah. And these women were undergoing something they were very vulnerable already because of their inabilities to conceive. So here they were experiencing these terrible, painful retrievals, and their complaints went for so long unlistened to and unanswered by Yale. And what I think that taught me, Emma, was something that I had heard, but as a man never experienced, that in the medical profession and the greater healthcare community, women's complaints of pain are often ignored and minimized. And whereas, men complain of the small, I can speak personally, I complain of everything, and, and I get doctors listen to me, but it was sad, but also eye-opening, and hopefully in the end transformative of how healthcare listens to and treats and takes seriously the complaints of pain of women.
You talked just now in that case about listening, and you mentioned too before when we were talking about the Sandy Hook case about listening to those families. How important, either when you start a new case or throughout the process as you're continuing, whether it's a suit or seeking a settlement, how important is that aspect of listening with your clients?
It's critical. I have only recently been labeling it that, but that is it's such a critical part, because and especially in this day and age where everybody's running around and there's all this information flying around, just the art of listening is sort of disappearing. And so you have to, in the way the cases I tend to get involved with, I really want to marinate and listen and be extremely patient and involved and absorb the stories of my clients, so that I can then go into action and not rush and have all these preconceptions. I think it's just critical part of just slowing the process down and not rushing to judgment.
Is there any advice you would give someone who's starting out or wants to go into the law profession, maybe wants to become a lawyer or an attorney? Is there any sort of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I think there's some basic things. Number one is, and I'm sort of applying my own sort of moral code, I guess, but would be to use your skill in service of others that need you. Powerful corporations, the big oil companies, they don't need you. The people who need you are individuals who are typically on the wrong end of a power imbalance.
Yeah.
And the other thing I often say to law students is ask yourself whether you're looking for a job where at the end of your service to your client, you're going to get a hug or a handshake. If the answer is you're going to get a hug, then you must be doing something that is not only right, but rewarding.
And so this Time 100 list is split into different categories, and you were included in the innovators section. What does being an innovator in the field of law mean to you, if anything?
Sure. Well, again, I was really, really humbled by this, but and overwhelmed, a bit overwhelmed. I mean, Snoop Dogg is an innovator, and the difference between me and him is I know who he is.
Yeah.
But being an innovator, I mean, I guess Time, from what I understand, the Time was focused on, the cases I've been fortunate enough to be involved with involving the gun industry and taking on these a very challenging litigation burden. And on an issue that is, of course, very, very important to all of us. So I think that they thought that the idea was that was an innovative legal approach, which I appreciate, of course, but again, never expected anything like this.
Really quickly in our last minute here, as we're moving through a time both, federally and even some ways in the state when there have been, renewed attacks and we've seen, a continuing struggles against the gun industry. Do you have any sort of, hope for people as they're looking ahead here of what's to come, and especially as we've seen a lot of legal attacks and legal involvement. I'm thinking with Attorney General Tong here in the state of Connecticut, but on your side, dealing with people more individually, is there any sort of hope or message for the future here?
Well, it's a watershed moment, to be sure, and I think this is the time that will test the mettle of the legal profession, really as whether or not we are going to stand up for the legal system, for the rule of law, or whether we are going to cave to a person who is abusing their privilege, and that's really in flux. I think we're seeing both the best of the legal system and the worst of it. So. So I think we need courage, we need determination, and it's a little bit of an all hands on deck situation for the legal profession. And I think I'm very, very optimistic, Emma, that when the legal profession gets together, as it pretty much has done with a few exceptions, and says, no, we are not going to cave or bend the knee or pay tribute. We are going to do our job and hold the line. I'm very, very optimistic about the outcome.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to share more about this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emma. Appreciate it.
Of course, we still have more to get to here on The Real Story. We recently marked the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution. We'll dig more into Connecticut's role and how the State Museum is going to tell some of the Revolution's untold stories. Stay with us.